Hello, people of Yosi Kingdom. Today I'm seeking to open your eyes to see some of the dark things that are going on in our societies across the world that are being backed up by governments across the world, mega companies, and of course the media. You see, people are very quick to stand behind certain causes, to support certain things, and of course these things look very appealing on the outside, but there's a lot of rottenness going on inside. It's just like a cake that is rotten and then you cover it with a very beautiful icing. But we all know that inside is rotten. And today I'm going to be clearing off the icing. I'm going to be removing the veil so that we can see the things behind it, so that we can begin to question the things that we're standing for. And no matter how appealing it looks, we can see the bigger picture, because sometimes this thing might look good in the short term, but when we look at the bigger picture and the import of the things that we're standing behind, then we would know that it's not the best course. So today, let's delve into this. But before we get started, if you're new to this platform, please ensure that you subscribe to this channel so that we can grow this kingdom and we can get these videos to reach as many people as possible. Now, we must realize that governments across the world, mega companies, and even the media have been intentional about pushing certain things into the society. And I believe the goal that they're trying to achieve is to, first of all, desensitize people to the value of life, make people really unstable and highly dependent on them, reduce people's self worth and self identity, increase perversion, and of course, increase violence, and get things so intense to the point that there will be a need for a drastic intervention. And of course, it's the people themselves that will be clamoring and begging for a drastic intervention. And all this is in the bid to gain more power. Now, I'm not just saying these things to raise speculations or to be a conspiracy theorist, but I'm sure that by the time I'm able to touch base on some of these things and expound on them, your eyes become more open to see the things that are already in front of you. And so the goal is for you to be able to question the things that you stand for, to question what you see going on outside, to question what is pushed in front of you, so that you're not just following, everything like a sheep. Now, I said that governments across the world, mega companies, and even the media are trying to desensitize people to the value of life. Now, let's look at abortion. Women who are supposed to be nurturers, who are supposed to look out for the well-being of children, are the ones who are clamoring for them to be allowed to abort a child. Now, we see that women who are supposed to be at the forefront of, protecting children, nurturing children, caring for children, are the ones that are clamoring to be allowed to abort their children. And common science makes us understand that life begins at conception. But you see that the media has been able to, brainwash us to the point where we begin to, lose sight of this basic reality. Instead, we are questioning it and saying that it's just a bunch of cells. Even if you look at other species, a tiny tadpole is still a living thing. An ant is still a living thing. How much more a child that is forming in the womb? And then we're saying that it's just a clump of cells, it's not human yet. Whereas biology is telling us over and again that life begins at conception. So we see that the media has been able to brainwash a lot of people to believe that what they are aborting is not a human life. And that is, the media teaching people to be desensitized to the value of life, to be able to take away their own, flesh and blood, their own blood. And even when they see what is in front of them, that little fetus with hands and legs and, brains that are developing with a heartbeat, they still do not feel any sort of weight to know that this thing that they did is actually wrong. They feel like they're justified to do that. And the weird thing is that if you see these people, when it comes to animals like, dogs and cats, they are so overwhelmed with, caring for a pet. They are always overwhelmed with, oh, it's so cute, we don't deserve it, it's fantastic, it is this, it is that. And they cherish these their pets. But when it comes to human life, when it comes to their own, flesh and blood, they really do not care, because the media has made people to look at pets as very grand, yet your own species, you look at it as it's not that significant. And abortion rate is increasing and increasing all the time. Why are people saying that they should be able to abort? Because they feel like it's going to be inconveniencing to them. They feel like it's just going to be uncomfortable for them, because they want to chase after their dreams and aspirations and they don't want anything to hold them back. And I'm just like, is that not selfish? What about the child? The child did not ask to be, conceived. You are the one who conceived this child. Even if you do not want the child, why not the governments of the world, the mega companies, and even the media promote in encouraging people to look at establishing these foster cares and making them very good and run properly? Why are they not focused on ensuring that adoption centers and all of these things are done properly, instead of pumping money to the things that are positive to keep the children alive and to help them the best way possible? The answer is end them. Why is it that the answers to problems are always problems in themselves? And I'm not done with the fact that they're trying to desensitize people to the value of life. Look at the promotion of, allowing people to be able to carry guns. Now, I feel like any government who allows its people to be able to carry guns is a government that is telling the people that we have failed you. That is what it means. It means that you are on your own. It means that that society is operating in a jungle system, in a jungle survival of the fittest system, where you are on your own, really. That is the strongest man wins. In the jungle, the lion goes about its business and the deer goes about its business. And it's the deer that's able to run very fast and is able to, get away from the lion that survives. But the deer who isn't fast enough is the one that's going to be killed. And it goes across other, species as well, where they're all fighting for survival. Anyone can be preyed upon at any time. And that is the way that we are making the society to become, where it is now the survival of the fittest. I mean, when somebody comes with a gun to your house, if you are able to shoot first, clap for yourself, you have survived. If they shoot you first, I'm sorry for you. And the government is telling you that the answer to crime is for them to arm people with guns. Now, you see that the more people are armed with guns, the more they become desensitized to the value of life. Somebody comes, to attack me, the answer is to shoot that person. And of course, we feel justified because, of course, if I did not shoot this person will have shot me. But the point is, why is it that we see a lot of people having guns in the first place to even increase the attack? Because if guns are illegal, it will reduce the amount of violence that we see. Instead of the answer to be for them to empower the police system, to make sure that the police system is accountable and they do their work really well, and instead of increase the security system in every part of the country, their answer is that you need to carry the guns yourself. You need to be able to defend yourself. That's what they're telling you. They're telling you that they cannot protect you. So if they cannot protect you from, enemies within the country, will they be able to protect you from enemies that are outside the country should a war ensue? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. Why are we now having a government there that cannot protect us, that we need to start carrying guns? The way things are supposed to run is that we have people who are specifically trained to be able to handle these things. And even when these people are trained, they're not trained to, the first thing be to shoot somebody to death. They're trained to actually, mitigate situations, to try to control situations. And the last resort is actually shooting to kill. But we see that because everyone is armed, I mean, we can look at America as a case in point. We see that even the police, when they go to, attend to some of these issues, they're very quick to shoot because they know that everybody is armed with guns and anyone can shoot them. So they're even extra tense. And of course, when they see any threat, they're fast to shoot and shoot, lethal shots that can actually, end people's lives. Now, I know the defense that people are making to support the fact that, people should be allowed to carry guns is that, crime rate is increasing and these criminals find a way to own guns already. So they want to be able to defend themselves. But the solution doesn't lie in everyone carrying a gun. We look at America as an example. They've established this law in place, allow people to carry guns. And what are we seeing? A lot of mass shootings because a random person on the street is able to own a gun. Since any random person can own a gun, if something happens in their life and they feel a certain type of way, they can decide to take it out on other innocent people because they have easy access to getting a gun. But when getting a gun is not an option, we see that this kind of mass shootings would really, really reduce. And the solution is not just to hope that the crime rate will just drop, but to ensure that the police force does their work effectively. The police should be on every major street, must be on every major area to be able to, take care of that area, to be able to ensure the security of that area. Not the one that, in Nigeria here, how can you say that, some terrorists are able to go to a school, kidnap a lot of students and pass through so many areas and there was no police to even see them? Like, were there not supposed to be police checkpoints at these areas? They should actually focus on ensuring that the police force are accountable to every of their actions and that they're very intentional about protecting the people. Now, I don't have all the answers, but the point is they need to be trained and they need to look for measures to put in place to increase the security, to ensure that the security state of every single area of the country is intense, where crime will be difficult to carry out, where criminals will find it very difficult to carry out their crime because the security level is really high and intense, as opposed to saying that everyone should just carry a gun and be able to, defend themselves and should be able to shoot. What they are trying to tell you is that you are on your own. Oyoluwa, as we say in Nigeria. Oyoluwa, simple. And if we even look at games, what kind of games do we see that people play? Apart from football, the next game that people play, especially with guys, even small children, is shooting game. Games that they'll just go there and be shooting, criminals, I mean shooting all sorts of people, is mostly shooting games that you see people play. And what this does is that, our generation becomes more and more desensitized to the value of human life, because when we see crime happening, or when we see all these images, or all these horror films, all this killing, all this beheading, all these kind of horror things in movies, in videos, and all of those things, we don't even feel any type of way. I mean, if my mom should watch one of these horror scenes, she would be really scared. Like, she would just be like, no, 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 you remove this thing. Like, she doesn't even like it because she cannot stand it. But you see that we'll be watching like this, like, we'll be watching with all seriousness, with all our mind in there. We don't really feel any type of way. We just feel like it's normal. And what this means is that we are more and more becoming desensitized to the value of human life. Whereas our parent generation, they were very, conscious about these things. They could not stand some of these things that we are looking at today and seeing that, well, what's the big deal? And if you even look at racism, what does it do? It actually dehumanizes people. It makes us to see people as less of a human being because of the race that they belong to, because of the tribe that they are in, because of their ethnic group, because of, all these flimsy reasons. So we see that we would prefer people because they are from our place, they're from our tribe, they're from our ethnic group, they're from our local government, they are from our race. And it makes no sense. And because they are riding on the violence of the past, they're riding on the wickedness of the past, all the slavery, all the abuse of the past, they are riding on people's anger, and they're increasing the violence amongst us in the society. They're riding on that. That is just what it is. I mean, can't we even take a look at Nelson Mandela and what he was trying to do to ensure that there was peace? Yes, the whites had done very terribly to the blacks, but the answer was not to retaliate, which is what people wanted to happen. But the answer was not to retaliate, but to strike a balance and to allow for peace to reign, as opposed to fighting and retaliating against those who are oppressed in the past. Almost every group has gone through some level of oppression. Is it amongst, the blacks versus the whites in, America, or is it about the Jews who were slaves for 400 years in Egypt? I mean, the Bible tells us this. Or is it about, the genocide in Rwanda amongst people that are black by themselves just because of ethnic and tribal issues? Like, we need to understand that there's been all this kind of, anger and violence going on for this kind of weird reasons of ethnic differences, tribal differences, and racial differences. And it makes no sense. And this is all about just making people feel like another race is less than another race. And it just allows the divide to keep on widening and widening. So before we start saying, oh, I want to join Black Lives Matter, or I want to join this thing, I want to join this move, we must realize that it is increasing the divide. I mean, if you are a black person and you hear support white-owned businesses, what does that tell you? It means that you should not be supported because you are black. It means that they should prefer a white person over you. So why should that be a slogan for the black community? There shouldn't even be any of that. We must get to the point where we understand that the answer to the issues that we've had in the past is not for us to keep the divide continuing. It's not for us to keep on widening the divide, but for us to understand and love one another regardless of race, of tribe, of ethnical differences. None of that. Just love people because they are humans. They are human beings. That's it. Now, I mentioned that governments across the world, mega companies and the media have been trying to make people unstable and highly dependent on them. Now, let's take a look at, drug abuse and drugs across the world. We see that there's a rise in, the use of opioid. And of course, many people get introduced to these things because of, innocent reasons. Like, they had a lot of pain and they were given this kind of painkillers in the hospital, and because there has not been a proper pain management system put in place, or they did not experience any of that being given to them, then they soon realize that they now become dependent on these drugs. And once they become dependent on it, it affects every fragment of their lives. We all know that there's a huge opioid pandemic going on in many countries. I mean, this is not even limited to the opioids. If we look at even the puberty blockers that are given to people that are transgender, meaning that they are supposed to use these things for the rest of their lives, they're making people to be dependent on these drugs continually. It's not because they care about you. It's not because they love you. They care about their pockets and they want you to keep on being dependent on them. And it doesn't just end with drugs. It goes into sex and, of course, gender differences and identity. Now, you see that there's a lot of perversion when it comes to sex. They have made people to feel like, giving up sex anyhow shows freedom, shows your human rights, shows that you are woke. I mean, I don't think you can watch any American movie and you will not see that, once somebody likes somebody, not even committed to the person or anything like that, once somebody just likes somebody, the next thing to show that they like somebody is to have sex with the person. And they have now gotten to the point where they have perversed sex. Now they promote all sorts of promiscuity, pornography. Like, why should pornography be a business that is allowed to even be in place in a sensible society? We see strippers here and there. Some countries allow people to be prostitutes, legally, and we see all sorts of perversion. Now we see also bestiality. We see that pedophilia is already creeping in. In fact, it has already been creeping in for a very long time, where people are fighting for the age of consent to be reduced to 14, to even 12, to 11, to even 9 in some places. And we feel that this is okay. They have so brainwashed a lot of people to even not know what their identity is in terms of their gender again, where you don't even know who you are. They've been able to make you believe that as a boy, you can actually be a girl, and as a girl, you can actually be a boy. And they've made you to believe in this lie, and so you run with it. And when they have been able to change your identity and allow you to question even the fundamental information about yourself and identity about yourself, then what else can they not tell you or sell to you that you will not take? What else? And I feel like when it comes to sex and even this gender issue, the target is actually children. I mean, they're telling you that a child of 13 years old can tell you that they want to transition from a boy to a girl or a girl to a boy, and they have every right to do that, even without their parents' consent. Even a child of 4 years old that still believes in Santa Claus, that still believes that he's seen an imaginary friend, is the one that is telling their parents that I believe that I'm a boy when they're a girl, and vice versa. And we feel like this is normal, this is okay. And we want to run with this. So if you believe that they have enough maturity to be able to, change their genders at 4, at 9, at 12, then why can't they vote at that same time? Why can't they use alcohol at that same time? I mean, you want them to be having sex at that time as well. You want them to be having sex at 9 years old, at 10, at 13. You give them condoms in school to encourage this, not to actually tell them to not do it, but to actually give them condoms because they say they will still do it anyway. Instead of raising a society where it is shunned and where it is, they are taught against it, we are rather saying that it's okay, just protect yourself and all of that. So we are encouraging them to be able to do this at a very young age. And then we're wondering why things are like this. And what they're trying to get at is that if a child of 13 or 14 is allowed to have sex with another minor, if they can actually have the maturity to, determine who they want to have sex with, and the person is a minor, they can actually also, allow the person to be an adult, right? They can actually allow the person to be an adult. And that is what they're actually pushing towards. And we see this already happening in some communities where people of 11 years old, of 9 years old are being married off and are being, slept with, and based on whatever reason or maybe religion or whatever the case may be. The goal behind all of this is to get people to lose their self-control and to get them to, reduce their self-worth and to have a very confused self-identity. And when you lose your self-control, they want to be able to control you. They want to be able to manipulate you to do whatever they want you to do. And we see that they've brought social media to the mix to get people to, have this popularity contest where they're always seeking to be popular. And for them to be popular, they have to, do certain things. So you see that, when you post certain kind of content online, it will be very difficult for you to, trend. But by the time you kind of post a particular type of content, you see that you get more views, you get more likes. So even when you come with, an idea in place, you want to be yourself, you kind of begin to adjust yourself in a way that will be appealing to people so that you can increase your likes, you can increase your followers, you can increase your subscribers and all of those things. So it gets people to always want to feed to the public because they want to please people. And so they are living their lives in a way that they just want to get the validation and the acceptance of the masses. The goal here is people pleasing and attention seeking. And we see that a lot of people nowadays, especially the youths and the teenagers, are so bent on being liked all over social media. They want to have a lot of fan base. They want to be influencers. Influencing what? What value are you bringing apart from just dancing and showing yourself and just, what exactly are you bringing to the table? Like when they're supposed to be learning, important skills and, growing their knowledge, they're busy dancing and doing memes on TikTok. And the last thing I'm going to be talking about is even the news, where they want to only post content that is about, the bad things that are going on in the society so that they can increase fear and panic amongst people. And when people are afraid and panicked, it will allow them to accept things that they should not actually accept, like accept, for them to allow for guns to be able to be carried by regular citizens in the country. Instead of people becoming bold, they become fearful about their environment, about everything around them, because all they see going on around them is just bad news after bad news after bad news. They won't make noise about the amount of great things that are going on in the society. It's only the bad news. I remember that in school they taught us that news is defined as bad news is news, good news is no news. And of course, when they feed you with the fact that there's a lot of bad things going on in the society, and they will tell you, everyone should be allowed to carry a gun. And you'll say, yes, everyone should be allowed to carry a gun. They'll tell you, like, we need to bring in this and put this in place. You say, yes, let's put this in place because you feel like everything is much worse than it is. I don't know how many people have, asked me about Boko Haram because I'm in Nigeria. When I'm in the West, I'm not saying that Boko Haram does not exist and they are not causing a terror to a lot of people, but I'm saying that the way it has been portrayed on social media, on these news channels, has just been, only pushing that as if that's the only story and the only reality in Nigeria. Whereas there are so many other good things that happen within Nigeria. So in every country, there's always the bad and the good, but they would always emphasize on the bad things happening there. Now, what am I trying to achieve with this? Is just to raise the questions. It's for us to begin to ask these questions. Before we stand for something, before we go behind something, let us begin to question these things. Let us, dig deeper to understand the import of these policies that are being, introduced, or these laws that are being introduced, so that before we back something up, we really understand the deeper, picture. We understand what is in store for us if we go in a particular route. Now, I know that in this video, I did not give a lot of solutions, and I'm going to be addressing that in a subsequent video. But I would like you to begin to, think about these things and to give the solutions to some of the things that I mentioned in the comment section so that we can begin to brainstorm on these things together. Now, I do not have the answers to all of the problems of this, or nobody has the answers, but we can begin to think and think, outside of the box to see what will be the best way going forward. Now, this is not peculiar to any state or nation. This is something that is going on a worldwide scale. So everyone should be able to look at, measures that can be put in place to make things better and to get people to, see the behind the scenes, to see what is going on behind the things that are being put in place in our policies, in our laws, and so that we are not just easily swayed into accepting whatever they accept, but we must begin to question whatever, we see. We must begin to ask questions before we decide to stand for something. We must have done our research and see that it is worth it before we stand for it. And for the things that we know that are not good, then we don't stand for it. And as a Christian, I know that the world is going to be getting darker and darker as we go. Yet, we must understand that we are in the world, but we are not of the world. So we have to be separate. So we're not going to be standing for the things that they're introducing. We're not going to be a part of that. We're not going to be encouraging what is not going to be in line with what God wants for us in, our community, in our nation. We are not going to be a part of that. We're going to be set apart. As the world becomes worse, we need to, create systems and communities amongst ourselves to be able to protect ourselves, to be able to ensure that we are separate from this kind of chaos. Now, I hope this video has been quite insightful for you. This is just to help you begin to ask the questions that will help you make your outstanding self ignite. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell to get notified when we release a new video. As I explained, I'm going to be releasing a subsequent video where I'm going to be talking about the solutions. So if you have enjoyed this, please ensure that you click that notification bell. And of course, please don't forget to share this video with your friends and family. Let us grow this kingdom and let us get this video to reach as many people as possible. I'm sure you understand what this does to our algorithm. Thank you so much. I love you all, and bye.